Lately, I've been doing some research and experimentation with subliminal messages. Making subliminal messages in audio form is pretty easy, and with images or video, it's only a bit harder. Since I found both subliminals and hypnosis to be pretty effective, I wanted to see if a combination of the two would be even more effective. I tried this in two ways. The first way was to take hypnotism audio and add subliminal messages in the background. The second way was to use the hypnotism audio and turn it into subliminal form. This was then played in the background of some nondescript music. Before people start bringing up questions of morality or side effects, I want to tell you that I only tested this on myself and I haven't noticed any side effects whatsoever. So the results were that the hypnotism audio with background subliminals worked generally like regular hypnotism, but the subliminal effect was less constant than usual. If I had to guess why this was, it would be that hypnotism in general is intended to make you focus only on it and avoid other distractions. Hypnotism and subliminals can be stacked, but it wasn't a very large improvement like I was hoping for. As for the subliminal hypnotism, it was a bit more disappointing. It only intermittently gave the effect of falling into trance. For the majority of the session, the effects were not particularly noticeable, and was essentially a normal awake state. I should mention that I wasn't entirely relaxed during this session as well. So I tried the subliminal hypnotism again. This session I was entirely relaxed, so it gave a much better trance state, but other than that it did not give the intended effect. So it is possible to bring a calm person into trance with subliminal hypnotism. However, I don't think that's particularly useful if you can't give them the intended effect of the hypnotism. You could make someone feel any number of things with subliminal messages, including the faint sensation of physical contact. This would be an example of the intended effect I keep talking about. Also, if people have some interesting or creative ideas of what I should try next, I'd be happy to hear them. I frequently see videos posted on YouTube that have subliminal messages that can't possibly work. Some people seem to be acting like it's literal magic. They want subliminals to make them skinnier or more wealthy. People never cease to amaze me with the strange things that they believe. Some people even believe that if you play audio backwards, it becomes a subliminal message. There is no evidence that the brain can understand this. I can also say that I tried this myself, listening to the resulting audio in both a normal relaxed state and in a trance state. Obviously did not give the intended effect like an actual subliminal message would. Instead of understanding reversed audio, your brain tries to interpret the audio as simply normal but garbled speech. This obviously doesn't really work, so you end up finding words and phrases where there aren't any. Some people are concerned about subliminal messages being used to manipulate people. In my opinion, cult-like behavior and certain ideologies are far more manipulative, as well as far more dangerous than any subliminal message could ever be. After all, no one sets out with the intention of joining a deranged death cult. They get manipulated into doing such a thing. Biased and misleading media coverage is also far more impactful and widespread to the general population. Everyone is being manipulated in one way or another, and I think subliminal messages should actually be the least of your concern. I'll explain why I believe this with subliminal advertising as an example. First of all, subliminal messages work best when continually repeated for an extended length of time. If you have a commercial that is only seconds long, that's a bit of a hindrance. When your brain is receiving lots of information, it's harder to process what it means. So subliminal advertisements would logically be less effective than more explicit advertising. Second of all, we see ads all the time while we are focusing on other things. You are not conscious of seeing the ads when this happens, so it would only affect your unconscious mind. This works for listening to ads as well. If you leave the TV on in the other room and you vaguely hear it playing, do you feel strangely compelled to buy certain products whenever a commercial plays? As for showing a subliminal image or video, there are two basic ways of doing this. The first is changing the opacity of the image, and the second is very briefly showing the image. Changing the opacity and blurring images together would make the ad seem quite strange. As for briefly showing an image, that's even more of a problem. With my own experimentation, I found that if you're actually paying attention, an image that's shown even very briefly, much less than a second, will still be obvious and consequently not subliminal. I mean, if you really wanted to sneak subliminal messages into something, the best way to do it would be to make a video that's extremely distracting and really bombards the viewer with information. The resulting video would be pretty irritating and distracting for most people, though. I also want to make the point that when I listen to subliminals, the effect stops when the audio stops. So if you were to hear a subliminal ad while listening to your car's radio or sitting at home, the effect would not last long enough for you to go into a store and to actually buy the item. So if you actually wanted to use subliminals to sell more of a product, that would only be useful if they were being played to people who are actively shopping in a store. I'm sure even now people have ridiculous concerns about satanic messages in music and hidden messages in Disney movies. What if they did put satanic messages into a particular song? Would that really be worse than a song that is blatantly satanic? It just doesn't make any sense. Very religious types in particular were using the concept of evil messages being hidden everywhere to gain attention and create a moral panic. I don't care if they actually believe this or not, they were misleading and manipulating people to serve their purposes. The concept of subliminal advertisement actually began as a hoax in the 1950s. After this hoax, people kept believing false ideas about it. They were legitimately concerned that it was quite powerful and a real danger. However, when we think rationally about it, it's not really as practical as normal advertisements are. This should also be a lesson that only a little manipulation is required to make people fear things that they don't understand. After all, humans aren't entirely rational. If we were entirely rational, advertisements would look very different. We'd pay more attention to graphs and information than attractive people holding the product. If you look at a box of ammunition, for example, it has logos and various information on it. However, the most important information, the amount of penetration and the expansion a bullet will have, is almost never included. Marketing sells more of a product than transparency and nuanced information does. In case you're wondering, no, I didn't include any subliminal messages in this video. But if you want me to make a subliminal video with a specific effect in mind, let me know in the comment section.